Welcome, friends, to the next show of Meditation, the Art of Loving. My name is Swami Anand Krishna, and I have got a very expert of today's subject show, which is Soundless Sound of Crystals, how it helps in meditation and healing. So, his name is Reverend Lawrence Katz. Everybody knows him, and people know him as Larry also, those who are buddies. And I welcome him and request him to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Reverend Lawrence Katz and live here in Ashland, have the Transition Sanctuary up in the foothills here, been here since 1999 doing crystal healing work, created a chamber of crystals that's been compared to that of John and God in Brazil and other places where they created chambers for accelerated healing.
Yeah, John of God will send to the Lawrence of Ashland all the cases now. So let us hear from Lawrence to make everybody come into this moment, some sound things.
Always I start off with bringing the stillness through sound. So take a breath and allow the next 2 minutes to have your heart receptors open to soul connection and mind quieting to the stillness of your heart. Feel your breath.
Lawrence is a snake charmer also, it looks from his flute playing, Now let us listen to the Osho's video clip.
Conditions so that you are as vast as the whole. When I came first to the statement of P.D. Ouspensky, he was one of the greatest mathematicians of this age. And he wrote one of the most beautiful books ever written. The name of the book is Tertium Organum. And in the very beginning he declares that the first book was written by Aristotle. Its name was Organum. Organum means the principle of knowledge. And the second book was written by Bacon, Novum Organum. On the same lines, he goes far beyond Aristotle. Novum Organum means new principle of knowledge. And Ouspensky, with absolute humbleness and humility, says, I am going to call my book Tertium Organum, the third canon of thought, the third principle of knowledge. Up to that point, it was okay. Certainly, he has much more to offer now than Bacon. But he goes on saying that I want to make a statement that the third canon of thought existed even before the first canon of thought of Aristotle. Just it was not discovered. And all these three books are concerned with mathematics. In Tertium Organum is the statement that what I am going to write is not mathematics, but super mathematics. In mathematics, the part can never be equal to the whole. It is obvious. But in super mathematics, Ouspensky says the part can be as big as the whole. The part can become the whole. When a dewdrop disappears into the ocean, slipping from the lotus leaf, do you think it remains still a dewdrop? Or do you think it is smaller than the ocean? The moment it slips into the ocean, it becomes the ocean. Then the part and the whole are one. Love is the art of being one with the whole. On the path, you will find many lovers. Don't make them hindrances, and don't think of them as obstacles. That's what has been taught to you by all religions of the world. That if you love things of the world, your spiritual growth is retarded. You will never go to the beyond. You will never open your wings to the holy sky, just like an eagle flying across the sun.
Yes, thank you. About Aristotle, Bacon, and Ouspensky till the Tertium Organum. Just to recapitulate with the viewer, Ouspensky was one of the best mathematicians of the last century, and he became the disciple of George Gurdjieff, who was an enlightened being. And if Ouspensky would not have become Gurdjieff's disciple, hardly I think anybody would have known George Gurdjieff. Just like so many enlightened beings, unless until their lovers or disciples put them in the map, they are unrecognizable because they are just silent people. Living next door, you won't recognize them. So he just historically, he put George Gurdjieff in the limelight, and then whole world was knowing. And George Gurdjieff was the single enlightened master who put so many people on the path of real spirituality and to the brink of enlightenment or enlightenment. So this is just, but let us listen to Lawrence about crystals, how the soundless sound can reach us to the stage of silence, because all music, all whatever it is for taking us to the silent spot within us. Because between two notes of the music, there is a silent spot, and that is the real thing, that is the art of listening the music. So let us hear about the crystals from Lawrence.
Crystals have been used for beginning of time for communication. We discovered it in our own culture when people like Edison took and put copper around a crystal, put it to a magnet, and created sound from nothingness. Because in the universe there's called the Om, which is the sound of universal oneness that has no separation. I was blessed in 1999 to go from a realtor, nightclub owner, entrepreneur. I owned a lot of buildings here in Ashland, and I was told, put everything down and get still and learn from the crystals. So I was blessed to follow that 20 years ago. And when I said, what do you want of me, God? What is it that I'm here to demonstrate to myself? Because for me, there's only one person in the world that needs self-healing, and that's self. And the only thing we need healing from is the disconnection from our I am presence. So I brought a couple of crystals. Let me show you what I'm talking about in the physical form here. And this crystal skull was brought to me by another healer who lived in the San Diego area, who was coming to the sanctuary for healing. And she brought this crystal, and its name was Hizzy. The reason they called it Hizzy is because it made this sound to get everyone's attention that it wanted attention. But it drove the lady crazy. She couldn't sleep at night. And so when she brought it to me, you couldn't see into this crystal skull at all. It was totally chalky and not clear. Within 3 weeks of loving this crystal that's millions of years old, as you can see, it totally got clear. Even, I don't know if you can see it on TV, because it was with me so much, took on my smile. It stopped making the hissy noise when we brought it into the circle of stillness that I had at the sanctuary for 17 years. And within 3 weeks, it became crystal clear and started making the Om silent sound of well-being versus the hiss of the mind and creation, which all rocks, trees, earth, humans, animals, everyone carries the no sound of the stillness of heart that created the beginning of all of us. I'll show you another crystal. This is called a sound crystal. It's also known as a seed crystal. This crystal, when I got it, was totally chalky. You couldn't see into it whatsoever. And with using it going across the body for less than a month in the chamber, it became crystal clear. We are crystal in energy in the form of every cell of our body. And that's why I've been showed by the crystals instantaneous healing, so that when it happened on the table with humans, I could understand the principle of how we are meant to be clear, and that if we allow the silence of our own crystalline energy to come to full focus, we can clear and we will become Christed beings like the crystals. We will be clear, enlightened, and able to just, with a wave of our being, create healing and well-being on earth. That's the silence and the beauty of everything that creation has brought to us, so that we as humans can get all the gifts from these crystals that are absolutely amplifiers, and they are here to just bring the silence to a sound that our being will hear. And when it hears that sound and matches the crystal, we have what we call instantaneous healing of all types of disease, emotional realities that are distorted. Almost anything can be healed with just loving it unconditionally and allowing it to come to its trueness of nature, which is one with divinity.
Thank you, Lawrence. Now 2 questions. Does this crystal or particular crystal helps one to be totally silent, to go in meditative state, one thing? And another question, different crystal has got different properties and effect on the human?
Absolutely, and it all depends on the human who's presenting the crystal, because there's a resonance that happens between the soul of the crystal and the soul of the human. And when they come into harmony, that's what happens. They clear. Both the human clears and the crystal clears. And each one has, each soul has its own sound signature. Each crystal has its own sound. And it's amplified by the connection of the person using it. That's what creates the actual healing between the human and the crystal, is the intention of the soul of both the crystal and the human. There's only one of us. So both have that same resonant field of oneness.
Is there any type of crystal which can be harmful or negative effect, or all crystals are?
That's such a good question, because you go back to people who have lifetimes in Atlantis. Everything about crystals is made to amplify. So you can take a crystal and amplify darkness, or you can amplify light. We have free will, and that's the beauty of Earth, the choice.
In other words, they are amplifier. Whatever you are, it can amplify that thing.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to make sure that when you're dealing with crystals, they've been cleared. And I use sound to clear mine, but intention will do the same thing. It's important for people to understand that they have the same energy as the crystal, so whatever the crystal is going to match your frequency. So if you're a higher frequency, the crystal will become a higher frequency. They match the people and energies that they're used with.
But does it mean that suppose if somebody is having negative thoughts, or somebody is not well physically or mentally or emotionally, and if they've got a crystal with them, it will enhance or amplify their problem?
No, because as our soul is born into existence, to have no separation, to have no ill connection to the mind, but only be pumped through the heart of energy, so are the crystals. So I'm saying they can be programmed, but you have to use negativity to program them. They're all positive.
Okay.
They're all amplifying the goodness of life on Earth. And there are people, in especially the past, that people have heard of Atlantis, where they took the crystals and they used it to overpower versus to empower. So everything has a choice on Earth and free will to be that of which is oneness with divinity, or it has a choice to turn itself and turn away from that oneness. That's called free will. Lucky for us, we've chosen, and Osho and others have chosen to breathe in that oneness, and then it reflects out, so that I could not on my own take these crystals and heal them. They had to want to, and my soul had to want to come to that space with them of oneness. The minute that is felt, then both sides get amplified. You know, I'm blessed that I'm surrounded by thousands of pounds of crystals on the property, so that when anybody walks on to the property, their immediate experience is amplified. The same as with John of God in Brazil, who's created the crystal chambers. The same design has been used to create a crystal chamber here, that people, when they breathe into it, only their goodness will come to the surface, and anything that's keeping them from their goodness will shake out of their body and be gone, and that's how the healing takes place. It's not that it gets rid of anything, it's just a lower frequency can't enter a higher frequency. And so if you raise the frequency so high and put a person into that frequency, their body will respond as the crystal and instantaneously heal.
So you said you got pounds of crystal. So is it any different types of the crystals you have, or?
They're all different from all over the world. I've been blessed over the last 22 years to collect them. I have rose quartz that are for the heart. I have celestials that are for the third eye and open that up. I have generator crystals that start the Kundalini energy running through the body if it's being retarded by the mind. The crystal has enough energy to pass by the mind's control of the body to its perfection and amplifying to where the mind doesn't have control of the cell, and the spiritual part of their being then amplifies. And that's where we get physical and emotional and spiritual connection that's accelerated beyond what we can do ourselves, because we're all crystals, so we don't need an outside crystal for healing. And wow, if you can have a tool that amplifies what you're doing, they're really fun to have. I highly recommend that everyone in this state of where the world is right now start collecting crystals, put it around where you sleep, put it around where you work, put it around your food. It purifies and amplifies everything in your life.
And how do you choose? Suppose you got, when you started having first crystal till now, I think you got tons of crystals. Now, how do you choose when you go to some place? How do you choose the crystal that, yes, this is aligned with my energy?
It's a really good question. I'm brought to the now, which I just wound up getting a 120-pound crystal that has pink running through it. It has a lot of femininity to it. And a lot of the crystals in the sanctuary, I'm going to call, have been focused energy, masculine, get it out, get things done. This crystal, when I saw it, I knew it was going to take all the crystals at the sanctuary, because it's many faceted, and it would bring them all into a place where they would heal that crystal, because it needed healing. It had a situation which wasn't good for it. Mm-hmm. That's why it was brought to the sanctuary. The minute I put it down, the other crystals started calling out to it, and within 3 days, it became like the crystal skull and started to get crystal clear. And that's how that crystal came to the sanctuary. It's magnets. There's a magnification of energy that happens. And so since it's amplified, when I get near it, my heart starts to buzz. I can feel it through my whole body. And I'm going, that's the one that has to come out of 2 or 3 to choose from. It chooses me by its frequency of love and readiness to be part of all the rest of the crystals.
Thank you, Lawrence. And I think my viewers must have enjoyed. And as he said, crystal chooses him rather than he chooses crystal. Thank you very much, my beloved crew, RVTV, SOU, director, who is master of everything, Wanda Borland, and everybody, viewers, and last but not the least, this wonderful, knowledgeable person called Lawrence Katz. Thank you.